Welcome and thank you all for joining us for this episode of the Crexi Podcast, an insider's look at all things commercial real estate. I'm your host, Jessica LaRusso, director at Crexi, and today we are thrilled to sit down with Meghan Carroll and Courtney Haubach of Matthews Real Estate Investment Services. Before we dive in, a little bit about our guests. Meghan Carroll specializes in the disposition and acquisitions of quick service restaurants and casual dining. As part of the Business Franchise Solutions division at Matthews, Meghan utilizes her financial background to assist operators in accomplishing their short to long-term strategic goals, including operations and real estate acquisitions, portfolio valuation and buyout offers, sale leasebacks, refinancing, and debt procurement avenues. Meghan's expansive client network consists of the most active developers, institutions, franchise operators, and private investors from across the United States. Prior to joining Matthews, Meghan worked in the estates, appraisals, and valuations department at Christie's Auction House in Rockefeller Center, New York. Meghan then worked for Modern Luxury, a lifestyle magazine focusing on Dallas and Houston accounts. Courtney Haubach serves as an associate for Matthews Real Estate Investment Services, focusing on the acquisition, disposition, and leasing of single-tenant net lease properties. Courtney specializes in advising clients on investments, working with drugstores nationally with a primary focus on tenants such as CVS, Walgreens, and Rite Aid. Prior to joining Matthews, Courtney worked at a nonprofit organization where she focused on business development by assisting in building out the Salesforce CRM platform and fundraising efforts for the company, as well as coordinating 300 plus volunteers weekly. Meghan and Courtney, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much
for having us.
Awesome. Well, to start off, I know we just read your bios, but I'd love to hear more about how you got into in the first place. So why commercial real estate, and how did you get to specialize in retail and single tenant net leases?
Mm-hmm. Well, for me, the answer was always really simple. Commercial real estate has unlimited earning potential, and it's really a career of what you make of it. And I say career instead of job because it's a marathon, it's not a sprint. And in commercial real estate, you're not just showing up for the job. It's a career that provides you an opportunity to, build your own clients, build your own relationships. And, you're not really willing to stop until you achieve everything that you want.
Awesome. Totally. How about you, Courtney?
Yeah, mine is similar. I think that the position that I held previously, the job that I had after college, had some limitations to it. And there was just stipulations that were simply boiled down to you haven't been here long enough, or we could never, increase your pay to that amount. And a vertical ladder that you have to climb in the corporate world for most jobs. And it's really like commercial real estate because it blended having a very corporate professional job. Also, it's kind of an eat what you kill business, and it's really unlimited. And like Meghan said, for the right attitude and personality, it's a perfect career because your upside is just pretty much unlimited. And you can have, to a degree, you can dictate your day and how your week looks and how your year looks, which can both be good and bad. But for the most part, it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's wonderful to have that type of autonomy and be able to pave your own way for sure.
Exactly.
Did you have any mentors that helped shape your career path or, kind of brought you into the commercial real estate space that you looked up to?
Yeah, I got really lucky. I actually did have a couple of mentors, both of which are family friends, both of which work at CBRE or used to work at CBRE. And I met them actually I met one of their daughters through my previous job. And he worked at CBRE for around 17 years here in Newport Beach in the office division. And wow. I was mentioning to her, I feel like I need to transition into a job. I want something that blends having a relationship aspect as well as being able to actually make a decent amount of money. And she was like, you should talk to my dad. So I started talking to him. His name is Scott. And he kind of was the one that sort of held my hand through the process, told me exactly what I needed to do, introduced me to numerous people. Same with my friend Eric, who also works at CBRE. And they kind of took me under their wing initially when I knew nothing about the industry. I didn't come from a background in real estate like in college. My family has always owned different types of real estate investments, but nothing in the commercial space. So I was really lucky to be able to have them kind of guide me through my path because a lot of it is a relationship business. And so if you're breaking into an industry that you don't really know anyone in, it can be pretty hard. So I was lucky to have both of them as my mentors and kind of guiding me through my process and kind of just showing me the way and who I should talk to and the steps that I should take in order to kind of make my business a little more serious and actually get hired at a firm.
That's wonderful. I mean, what an amazing mentor, 17 years in the business with CBRE. That's a great person to start with for sure. How about you, Meghan? Obviously, transition from modern luxury over to commercial real estate.
Definitely. So when I came right after I graduated from college. There's no in-between time. I went to SMU and I grew up in Detroit, went to SMU in Dallas, then came out to California, kind of just, following the process of the training at Matthews. And I did not know anyone in commercial real estate, not one person. Obviously, I have the most incredible mentors that I've met now, just within our company. But I would say for me, my mentors were I grew up in Detroit, so it's a huge entrepreneurial spirit there. A lot of people there. It's kind of all makers and creators, and in the car industry, it's really complex. And I was lucky, I would say just my dad always kind of had an extreme work ethic. He always took a lot of pride in what he did. He showed me what it looked like to have the responsibility of a lot of people, under him that rely on him and just making it work. And so, I just grew up having that work ethic in front of me and knew that I wanted to do something that I loved with, endless potential. But yeah, as for real estate mentors, I've met the most incredible people within the company. And I would say almost any senior is a mentor to me at this point.
That's wonderful. You have such a collaborative team over at Matthews. And you mentioned your father, really had an entrepreneurial spirit. Were there any other lessons you feel like really helped you early on get prepared for this industry, or just kind of keeping that entrepreneurial spirit in general?
Definitely, for sure. I was thinking about that question, and I played pretty much every single sport growing up, but especially in high school. I was doing sports where it's you versus you. I was playing tennis. I was captain of my tennis team. I was captain of my golf team. So kind of just that holding yourself accountable and, being competitive with yourself definitely applies to the real estate game. And then on top of that, in my free time in college, I was always, I had a huge interest in fashion, and I was going to go down that road at one point, but I'm really glad I didn't. But I would say with that, I was personally styling a lot of my friends. And I think it applies to real estate because everyone kind of has their own style and approach with the business, which is really great. And I think it's something really important. For me, my style, I would say with the real estate is just approaching it with a really positive attitude every single day. High energy, you never know what the day is going to bring. And, those are some life lessons that I take with me that I use every single day today.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, having that competitive spirit and grit is so essential in this industry.
Definitely.
For sure. How about you, Courtney?
Yeah, similar personality. I would say when you walk into our office, everybody's a very similar personality. We're all, for the most part, pretty extroverted. All of us previous athletes, for the most part, as well. And I think that is something, drive, I don't think is something you can teach. I think it's something that you have, and you innately just want to try hard and prove it. And that's the thing about this business, is you're not really reporting to somebody above you, but you're having to hold yourself accountable. And I think that's a really unique quality to have, is to be able to hold yourself accountable every single day and have that translate into some type of success. And so same with me, I grew up a competitive athlete. I actually almost played sports in college, and I chose not to focus on school and kind of the social aspects of college. But yeah, no, I had an amazing mother too. She has always had, when I was growing up, she had 4 different phones because she was always working different jobs. And she kind of instilled in me, whatever you want in life, you can have. You just have to work hard. And that's going to be the difference in someone like you versus everyone else. You have to just be willing to sacrifice your time, because success doesn't just come overnight. And it's something that you really need to try for and focus on. So I always had a really great mentor in my mom to kind of push me. And it was great to see such a successful female role as I grew up.
100%. And especially being in an industry, right? You two are women kind of, leading the Matthews team. I know there's some others of you as well. So it's wonderful to see you excelling in the role and within your careers. And I think it's so important for people to, know that they need to have that drive when they're coming into commercial real estate, because it is very tough. So speaking on that topic, what challenges did you face when you first were breaking into this space? Courtney, let's start with you.
Yeah, I think the biggest challenge, and something that you start to realize when you start to interview at bigger firms, or let alone really at any firm, is you are basically entering the business with no prior experience, and you have to somehow translate and prove to someone that you're worth their time. And I think that's the hardest thing to do, is convey that you have the potential, because really they're just taking a gamble on you. And they've seen people time and time again come to them, I promise I'll work hard. I'll do this. I'll do what it takes. And really it's just, kind of all hot air. They're not really sure if it's, going to hit or not. And so I think the biggest challenge is finding someone that will believe in you and take the time to invest in you. And that was at least my biggest struggle, was being able. And so what I did is I just networked with every single person I could connect with on LinkedIn. And I just basically begged for 20 minutes of their time, or begged for a coffee date to just pick their brain about real estate, who I should talk to, how I should break in and actually be taken seriously, because I was coming from a job. And I feel like it's kind of like investment banking. Like, you have to come from some type of a financial background, or some type of real estate background, or sales background, to be able to actually be taken seriously. And so that's what I loved about Matthews, was they actually saw me as an asset. Even though I had no training, they said, this is even better, because we're going to be able to mold you and shape you and guide you into really a successful agent that we think, and give you all the qualities that we think are in a successful agent. And so that's why I'm really grateful for the opportunity I've had. And I've been able to work with Chad Kurz and Bill Peterson, my two seniors, who I'm just indebted to forever. They've helped me in more ways than one. So I'm really lucky to have that. But I think the biggest struggle, I would say, is actually getting someone to kind of dedicate their time to you and help train you and guide you through the process.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm sure that can be pretty daunting when, you don't know necessarily who to reach out to, right? And you're reaching out to everyone. It's wonderful to hear that Matthews has been so supportive of your career. How about for you, Meghan, when you first broke into this space? Any challenges?
Definitely. Oh, of course. I mean, there's so many different challenges that come up all the time, from, just objections over the phone, deals blowing up, it shifting not in your favor. But what Matthews really taught me was it's not really about the objection, but it's about how you navigate your way through overcoming that objection. And, it's just always about keeping your foot on the gas and looking forward. You can't really spin your wheels and go in circles about those challenges that don't work out, because every day you just don't know what lead you might stumble upon and all of that, and who you're going to talk to. So for me, it's been, at first, I would say it was the hardest, because I came in not knowing the first thing about real estate, and I told them that. But I said, I was going to be coachable, and I'm so excited about the opportunity, and being here is, just puts you in the position to have all of the opportunity, and it's really up to you. But I would say it's all about navigating the challenges, because different things come up all the time, and easily, it can defeat people, but you just can't think like that. You just have to look ahead, and you just have to know that it's a long-term game.
I love that. Thank you both, ladies. So let's get into some more of the nuts and bolts about your specialty, right? Single tenant net leases. So can you speak to single tenant net lease trends you're seeing nationally? Like, what's happening in that side of the retail world right now?
Definitely. So I focus on restaurants, quick service restaurants, and casual dining. I would say post-COVID, it's all about the lifeline of a restaurant is all about having a drive-through. Casual dining, we're seeing a lot of them come to market. I have a couple of them on market right now, because these owners know that it's not really a secure investment anymore. Everyone wants something with a drive-through. It's all about convenience. And even with the drive-throughs, there's so much change lately. I would say in the future, I would see a lot of double lane drive-throughs, or kind of those conveyor belt. There's just something new that you see every single day at this point. So the future is really exciting, but there's a lot of change happening, not only with the market, but just the future and the technology with quick service restaurants.
And it sounds like it's very rapidly evolving, right? So a lot of client education and things constantly changing. That is super exciting. How about you, Courtney?
Yeah, I think the main change that everyone has sort of felt this year has obviously been the elephant in the room of interest rates. And I think that the thing with single tenant net leases, they operate like bonds. They don't really operate like real estate. And I say that in the sense when referencing drugstores, for example, you buy the drugstore because you're buying the lease and who's backing the lease, and it's going to act as a passive payment for you. And it's less so like when you buy a multifamily building in LA that's going to naturally appreciate. The single tenant net leases, most of the time, their whole value, I would say 75% of the time, their value is derivative from the lease term remaining. And so I think it's been hard because owners coming out of 2021, we were able to, see financing at 1.45% on deals. And now we're looking at financing in the 5% range. And I think that shift is directly impacting cap rates and kind of where we can now sell deals. And so a lot of owners, from the feedback I'm getting, is buyers want tomorrow's pricing, sellers want yesterday's pricing. So there's a major disconnect that's occurring due to events that we just can't control. It's all due to the Federal Reserve raising interest rates. So I think that, we're feeling that trend across single tenant net lease. But in that, again, everything is temporary. So it's an exciting time because once you get through a market like this, that 2 years from now, it's going to be an amazing market. So that's kind of where we're at. But I would say that's the main trend I'm seeing in single tenant net lease.
No, absolutely. Thank you, Courtney. And what kinds of conversations are these buyers and sellers having in negotiations, right? You mentioned there's a pretty large disconnect happening right now. So what are you seeing in terms of the conversations?
Yeah, I think right now, I just think that brokers in particular are valuable in the transaction process because we're having to manage both sides. So we're having to manage our seller and ask for a price reduction, for example, because the price that we'd originally priced it at was before the Federal Reserve increased, 180 basis points. So we're having to now basically manage our seller's expectations while at the same time trying to attract a buyer to the deal as well. And so it's that disjointed connection there that's happening. I think that a lot of sellers are saying, well, you told me last year I could sell my property at this. Even in December, I priced a property in December, January time, and the pricing is shifted by a couple $1 million. And that's simply because of the market. And so I think we're seeing, buyers are saying, I know that the rates are going to raise. I think next week we're expected to have another 75 basis point raise. So they're saying, why don't I just wait a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and I know you'll have to reduce the price probably again. So it's a game of chicken, it's hard.
Yeah.
And I don't think that we want to make sure we're managing both sides, and our fiduciary duty is always to the person that we have a contract signed with. So we're always trying to work in their best interest. But I think that the major disconnect is just happening with the market and the unknown. And a lot of people just want to wait on the sidelines and see what happens.
So Courtney and Meghan, what kinds of clients do you both work with specifically? Different sizes, institutional versus private? Let's start with you, Courtney.
Yeah, so I think that everybody's dream is to get on the institutional side of brokerage. I think that's when it gets a lot of fun. But when you're kind of newer in the business, your clients and the ones that really get you off your feet are the private clients, because that's who we're making our outbound calls to. And, it's nice because you can build a relationship with them and they actually start to find value in you. So I would say right now I'm doing a lot of my deals with private clients that have slightly bigger portfolios. So anywhere from 5 to, 20 to 30 properties. They're not necessarily institutional. They're still private, maybe have a couple partners involved, but I would say those are kind of my client type that I primarily work with. But a couple of my partners, they work with all the REITs and helping them dispose of different drugstore properties or new developments that they're acquiring. So I'm kind of more on the private client side at the moment.
Got it. And how about for you, Meghan?
Yeah, just like Courtney, I'm also mainly working with private clients, which is great because you do build relationships with them after calling them so many times. And then, they're like, oh, hi, Meghan. And it feels great when people start to recognize you. And then it's all about building relationships. So if they don't want to sell last year, then maybe they'll call you this year and they say, hi, Meghan, I'm ready to go. That actually recently happened to me after calling the same two owners for about 9 months straight, at least once a month, and writing them a card and sending them a letter and sending them the BOV, which stands for Broker Opinion of Value, in the mail. So you just never know. Little goes a really long way. That listing is a Golden Corral casual dining restaurant out in Indiana. And then for some of my other deals, actually my very first deal ever, it was originally a 1-unit owner operator, A&W, Long John Silver's in South Daytona, Florida, a tiny little half-acre, actually less than half-acre parcel on a corner. And it was running when we listed it. And then he decided he no longer wanted to operate it, like halfway through our listing agreement.
Wow.
So then it's essentially a vacant building. We reduced the price. And now I'm talking to a lot of developer buyers in Florida to try to sell that deal. So it kind of just depends on the deal, but I would say mostly, just like Courtney, private clients.
Private clients. So we talked a little bit about some of the uncertainty in the market and some of the challenges that clients have been facing in regards to that. Is there anything else that you've been, working with your clients, challenges that have been coming up that they've been having to tackle?
I would say the biggest challenge right now is just managing expectations of pricing, because you don't want to bring a property to market on yesterday's pricing. It's all about, managing their expectations. I had a pitch late last night on a deal that his expectations were at $10 million. We priced it at $8.5 million. And because we're just not willing to, put another deal on market way overpriced for the current conditions. And it's in his best interest right now to, take the 8.5 if we can get that, and invest in something else more secure. So I would say, just like Courtney was talking about earlier, it's kind of just the big gap between buyers and sellers. And then the buyers, are just expecting the cap rates to be all 6+ cap, when I started, it was, a lot of things we were seeing in 4 cap, 5 cap for casual dining, which was kind of unheard of. So I would say, in the past year, when I started, the market was incredible and it was all about everyone wanted to sell for a record cap rate. And now it's kind of the buyers just, they want to get a good deal because they know that the interest rates are so high.
Perfect. Yeah, absolutely. And so what opportunities await the savvy investor that's looking into single tenant net lease as an asset class? And let's start with you, Courtney.
Yeah, I think that a lot of the buyers, at least that I see for drugstores, are coming out of multifamily. So they're coming out of something that maybe has appreciated over time, over the hold period of however long they've owned the property, whether it's 10 years, 40 years, whatever the case may be. And they're exchanging out of something that's pretty management intensive, very heavily regulated by the government and kind of local ordinances here in Orange County or LA, wherever they're selling out of. And they're getting into an asset that's going to be extremely passive for them. And like I said earlier, really operate as a bond. And they're going to probably increase their cash flow because for the most part, multifamily properties, at least nearby us, are selling at the 4% cap rate range, for being very high. So they're being able to kind of exchange into an asset that's not only not going to ever give them a call in the middle of the night, but they're also going to be increasing their cash flow. So I think a lot of investors are really seeking single tenant for that reason. And also other bigger owners that own single tenant, they're really looking for strong real estate fundamentals. And I think the exciting part about all kind of the newer developments that some developers are working on, like Meghan said, they're looking for that main location. And then they're able to kind of acquire the land, make a spread on it after the development and sell it for, a decent profit. So I think that there's all different types of avenues, just kind of depending on who the investor is.
Yeah, absolutely. And Meghan, since you focus more in the quick service industry and casual dining, what opportunities are there for investors that you've been seeing lately?
Yeah, definitely. Right now, for example, we're working on a casual dining deal where they just want to get into a property that's more secure. They rely on it for their retirement. And they're really excited about diversifying their portfolio and getting out of casual sit down dining restaurants and getting into something with a drive-through. So they might lose a little bit of cash flow right now, but at the end of the day, they can get into something that's much more secure. The rent will always come in passive income, just like Courtney said. And then also, not have to worry about rental reductions or a franchisee that's not paying their rent or COVID deferred rent, because it was just unpromising throughout COVID. And we're seeing the effects of that now, and we will continue to, especially for the next couple of years. So right now, there's just a lot of traction of getting people out of casual dining and into something more secure with a drive-through.
So keep an eye out for a drive-through when you're looking for properties.
Absolutely.
Nice. Awesome.
With that being said, though, I would say that there are still some states where it's really common, and it just kind of depends on the demographics and the location, because casual dining isn't 100% dead, and it won't be for a little while. But in some states, it'll be faster than others.
Got it. And yeah, so let's talk about specific markets, right? Have there been any trends that you two have noticed that have been unique to certain markets, whether locally or nationally, where you've been, working with clients?
Mm-hmm. I would say the hottest states for real estate when I first came in, and it has not changed, is Florida, Texas, California, and if you're on the East Coast, New York. And that's kind of what you would expect. And there's kind of different reasons for all of them. But especially right now, I'm hearing a lot of buyers say they want something in Orlando, something in Tampa, something in Miami, just because of all of the people that moved to Florida and the demographics so much more populated now. So they know that it's a strong state and it's a tax-free state. So, there's a lot of advantages to that. And yeah, Texas and California, it depends on the motivations of each client.
And Courtney, what trends have been unique in specific markets that you've been seeing, like single tenant net lease pharmacies? What's been happening in the post-COVID economy?
Yeah, I think that it's similar to what Meghan said. I think that Californians really love and will still cherish and pay high pricing for California pharmacies. I think that investors that are looking to maybe a 1031 exchange client that's coming from a different part, not in California, but maybe a different state, they're looking into Nevada, Tennessee, Texas, and Florida, I think is the hottest market right now, just because the population demographics, the growth projections. Some cities in the Carolinas, I would say, are also experiencing that kind of influx of people, whether it's coming from California, whether it's coming from another state. But I think that those trends, whether you're in multifamily or self-storage or single tenant net lease properties, I think that those kind of macro real estate trends kind of follow the same thing, and everyone's kind of flocking to the income tax-free states for the most part.
Yeah, absolutely. We definitely see it on the Crexi platform too.
Yes, exactly.
So what brands or corporations do you think have been doing a great job, navigating all these changing market conditions? And Meghan, we'll start with you.
Yeah, there's so many that have done such a great job overcoming everything. I would say my favorite quick service restaurants that I think have done really well and that I'm really excited about in the future, obviously, Chick-fil-A, Raising Cane's, Whataburger, they all kind of have that family concept idea with their employees. And then, with that Taco Bell, a brand new drive-through concept, it's kind of like a conveyor belt that you would see at a bank, but it drops off the food. So there's just so many exciting future kind of developments that I've been seeing lately. And they're just finding ways to keep their audience engaged. And, some of the other ones like crumble cookies, I'm sure you've seen all over the place just because they're expanding so much. They're another one that's done so well because every single week they come out with a brand new cookie and it's all over social media, and they'll have celebrities or influencers kind of, do all of that engagement as well. So a lot of them have been doing a really great job, and I'm really excited for what the future has in store for them.
Definitely. And it sounds like from what I'm hearing, it's really the companies that are focusing on branding and getting themselves out via social media and influencing, from what you're saying.
Definitely. I would say it's probably a lot different than it was 10 years ago, but you see like Travis Scott partnering with McDonald's and just all of those examples. I think that they're just trying to keep that engagement just so people keep coming or they want that new menu item.
Absolutely. And Courtney, what corporations have you been seeing that are pretty exciting or that you feel have been doing a good job with, all these market conditions?
Yeah, I think, any tenant that is still opening locations, given the market conditions, are the ones to watch. Meghan hammered it. It's the Chick-fil-A's, Tractor Supply is still doing a decent amount of development. Dollar General is always doing a ton of development.
Mm-hmm.
But I think definitely the engagement and getting creative with drawing attention to your store. I just saw something on LinkedIn where a guy went out of his way to a specific Chick-fil-A in Florida that's rolling out chicken wings. And that was like a new concept for them. And so I thought that was really cool. And it kind of went viral of this guy going to this specific Chick-fil-A that had just opened. And the reason he was going is because they were the tester kind of ground zero for this new product. So I think any type of brand that's willing to, get creative with their marketing is the one to watch. In the drugstore space, it's a little less creative in that aspect, but I would say they are starting, you see it with Walgreens a lot, is they're starting to build now or backfill old quick service restaurants into a pharmacy. So they're realizing that the landscape of a 15,000 square foot drugstore is maybe not needed. And so what they're doing is they're backfilling either an old Starbucks or an old quick service restaurant, or they're developing it themselves, kind of a smaller concept for more of a drive-through kind of feel, just like a drugstore kind of gives you, but without the additional, 12,000 square feet. So I think that's interesting too.
Absolutely. I mean, that's super innovative. Is there a market you're seeing that happening in more than others nationally?
Yeah, we're seeing it a lot in like Missouri. I've seen a decent amount of deals. I think where it's a little cheaper to build, they're starting to kind of roll off those kind of initial brand new construction ones just to kind of test them and see how they do, I guess like a prototype store, but it's less so. We have one actually down the street from our office in Costa Mesa that's been around for a while. It's an interesting concept. I think that we're going to start to see in the drugstore market for the next, 15 years that retail landscape will change just because there are so many pharmacies. I don't think we need 22,000 of them. So I'm sure we'll see that decrease and kind of watch as they transition into the smaller concept stores.
Absolutely. Thank you. So with both your specialized background and expertise, I'm sure our listeners are really curious about your answers to a few rapid fire questions and words of advice. So if I can start with one, we'll start here. So if you both were given $10 million each today and had to invest it immediately, what would be your go-to asset type and location and why?
I think I would break it. I'd do 5 million into multifamily and emerging markets. I'd try to buy a couple duplexes or triplexes, maybe each for $1 million, or maybe $2 million. And then I think I would develop a storage facility with the other 5 million, or maybe develop two if I could. That would definitely be and all of that being said, just to control rents. I think that's where the true value in real estate is something where you can have your rents be on par with, or at least have a fighting chance with inflation. And so that's definitely what I would do. I'm really into kind of like the whole storage facility concept and developing a storage facility. That's 100% what I would do.
It's a super hot asset. Where would you look to have your development?
That's a great question. I mean, I'd love to do it nearby, but land in California is really expensive. But I'd like to do it in a market because the unique part about storage facilities is you're only allowed to develop a certain amount. So I would love to be like the last person to develop in a market. So I guess I would just call around to brokers that specialize in storage and see what markets they're starting to cap how many you can build, and then try to build maybe the last one so that you can just always be a commodity in that area, because you can only have so many storage facilities in one vicinity.
Nice. I love it. How about you, Meghan?
Courtney, that was such a good answer. And I love how excited she gets when we're talking about it, because I feel like late at night when we're underwriting, like I'll talk about with the guys in my row after we're done calling, like one day what's going to be our like LLC investment name, just because we all can't wait to get there way down the road once we can. So I would say I would copy half her answer. I would definitely do Southern California multifamily. I would do like 5 million probably into just one, just because the appreciation, and I've seen the market do a full 180 in just the year that I've been here. So I've kind of, I've seen a cycle, and I just know that no matter what the market brings, there's always going to be that appreciation, and what Court said about the rents. And then on that, I would put another 5 million into a quick service restaurant, because that's what I specialize in. I would do probably like an In-N-Out in a really good city, ideally, because I would want an investment that's completely passive, that I don't have to manage. But I think it's important, to have a diverse portfolio, and, just keep up with the market, and have, be aware of the motivations and know why you own it. And then you can sell it at a good time and invest into something else. So I would probably do like an In-N-Out in a new emerging market, maybe Denver, Phoenix, something like that. Ideally.
I love that. two lanes in that drive-through though, for sure, right?
Oh yeah. Double lanes only.
Nice. Awesome. So I promise this is not a trick question, but what's your favorite tool or software that you're using on the job day to day?
Crexi, 100%.
I know you guys.
It's an easy answer.
Courtney had sent us a Venmo to say that. I'm just kidding. Definitely Crexi. Like, it's not even a question. It's Crexi. It's always Crexi. It's our favorite.
What are you using Crexi the most for? Is it lead management, looking for listings? I always feel like it's helpful for our listeners to know how you as brokers are using the tool day to day.
Yeah, I think it's a lot of lead procurement comes from Crexi, just because of the technology, the top prospects option, as well as kind of showing you who is interacting with your listing. I think that it's just the most widely known. It's like the Apple of commercial real estate, in the sense that so many people have access to it, can use it, find it really helpful. So I think in terms of getting a listing sold, Crexi is the way for me. I think that it's the best way that I've interacted with leads. And for the most part, I think a lot of, at least what we do in the retail space, really relies on it.
Awesome. Meghan, are you using it for the leads too?
Definitely. I would say for managing my listings, just, following up with every single person that clicked on a listing, or if they inquire about it, you get the notification right away. You have their direct phone number that they put in to sign up for the program, and then you have their email. So that part's been incredibly helpful for just managing my deals. I would say I use it every single day, and it's kind of my first thing in the morning as a part of my schedule. Oh, absolutely. I mean, I'll use it, and then I'll see, who looked at it over the night. I'll call, the East Coast buyers first, or I'll try to. And then, it's really great for managing listings, and you never know, I'll call someone who looked at my deal, then I'll be like, oh, do you have anything else in your portfolio? Just because you never know what principal has what, or you can learn so much from these people. And I would say that their phone numbers are normally correct, which is really nice, because we're not always used to that.
I love that. Have you found new clients just from calling the principals as well that you've represented on future deals, or?
I have clicked one person who was interested. He was an Arby's franchisee, actually. And he told me that he wanted to sell a couple of his casual dining sites and do a sale leaseback. So those are kind of projects in the works, not official listing signs, but hopefully in the future, you never know.
That's awesome. Yay. I love that. Awesome. Well, curious about this one, because I'm sure there's a lot out there, but what's the most common misconception about what you do or the industry that you work in?
I think the biggest misconception for a lot of people, and maybe sometimes for like when I first started, is that it's kind of like a get rich quick job. I think that a lot of that is boiled down to kind of like the LinkedIn culture. And I'm definitely guilty of it too, where we just celebrate our wins. And I think that the secret to commercial real estate is grit. And I think that that's not always portrayed, really, how much grit and determination and hard work goes in behind the scenes to close just one deal, or maybe to just make it through 1 week, how much time and energy and effort you have to put into the job. So I definitely think that the whole managing people's expectations when they get into the job, because it's an incredible job. There's so much potential. There's so much upside, but you really have to sacrifice your day to day. I don't think in my first year I ever worked out. I think I worked out one time, like the last month of the year, last year in December, after I had closed some deals. So it was hard, and it's a lot of personal sacrifice, especially when you're young and you see your friends that are traveling or maybe doing things that you wish you could be doing, and you're choosing to dedicate your time to your business so that one day, 10 years from now, you can be 35 or 40 and just enjoying your life and not having to work so hard. So I think it's that ultimate sacrifice that you have to make kind of repeatedly. That's the biggest misconception I think I see. And at least some of my friends who aren't in commercial real estate, they're like, it looks pretty easy. Like you just post, something that you just listed or you closed, and it seems like it closes for the most part. But that's definitely a misconception. A lot goes in behind the scenes, kind of like the Wizard of Oz. I think it looks really sexy on the outside, but behind the scenes, there's a lot going on, and we really have to work hard to get where we are.
Absolutely. The hundreds and hundreds of hours behind the deal that everyone doesn't see, right?
Yeah.
How about you, Meghan?
Yeah, my answer basically, I completely agree with exactly what Courtney said. I think a big misconception is that, if you get a listing, you're automatically going to close it, make money, like you're going to be wealthy soon. But it's like, there's so much that goes into, finding the correct buyer, finding a buyer that you can trust, or, even if you do have a good buyer, it's just, on, just conditions that you can't really expect in the market can happen. So that's what I've been experiencing a lot lately. And, like Courtney said, it's kind of, you always have to think about you're working now for a while and play later, because you can't do both right now. And I do think that it seems a lot more luxurious, like on LinkedIn, when you're just posting your listings and all of the good things, but it's incredibly hard work. We are all so lucky to be at Matthews just because we're in such a positive, push each other, competitive, fun work environment. For example, yesterday, Court and I were texting, setting our goals for the next 10 weeks with Mel as well, who's going to be on the part 2 of this podcast.
Oh, I love that.
So we're always kind of coming up with competitions or, just helping each other, because we're all in it together. And it's such a, it is a you versus you, but it's also at Matthews, you're on such a team with such great people who all believe in the process. But that's the thing, you just have to keep focused on the process, believe in it, and, not even consider any other options, because it takes everything just to close one deal.
Absolutely. Yeah. Put the head down and put the work in. And a lot of people don't see that. So thank you so much for sharing.
Yeah,
we really appreciate that.
Sure.
So another quick question for you guys, for our listeners out there, what's been the most creative type of single tenant net lease development or use you've seen in your career so far? I'm sure you've probably seen some pretty interesting ones.
I would say, it's really exciting with the quick service restaurants. I've seen with Carl's Jr., they're starting to do like lockers outside for curbside pickup, and
Wow.
Uber drivers, Uber Eats, and all of that, Grubhub. And then they just have to stay on top of the game, because so many things have changed ever since COVID. Like I said, the conveyor belts was a crazy idea for Taco Bell. And I know a couple of other tenants are kind of going in that direction as well. I think they opened it actually recently. Also, I want to say maybe Minnesota, or like a kind of a random city, just to test out the market and see how everyone reacts to it. But yeah, crazy concepts coming up all the time. The more standard ones are the double lane drive-throughs, but I would say one drive-through is the traditional, you order, and then the other drive-through is just for pickup. And then I would say something else that, it's not crazy, but I think it's really important to have, is just more of the kiosk, where you just press the technology of whatever they have and you order it like that. So, it's just a lot of crazy concepts right now. I'm seeing new ones all the time. I would say my favorite is the conveyor belt of the food, just because it's so different than anything else I've ever seen.
That's super cool. Absolutely. Love that. How about you, Courtney?
Mine are, I would say, just because I focus mainly on the drugstore space, I would say what's been interesting is seeing how the drugstore tenants are continuing to keep engagement at their stores. And so a lot of, Walgreens, and CVS, they've done a really great job of making sure that clients that come into the store can also get actual medical help. So they're starting to partner with, Health Hub, for example, and be able to actually provide medical care to families in need. And so I think that's been really unique, especially because during COVID, the drugstores became such a commodity because they continue to remain open, provide us with, different avenues of medicine, vaccines, just acted as front end sales stores, giving us groceries or milk or whatever you kind of needed to get. And so they were kind of a beacon of light, I think, during everything that happened with COVID, and they continue to kind of adapt and be able to actually provide hands-on help, have, MDs on site. And I think that's really valuable, especially because a lot of the drugstores, they do a good job of being in markets where maybe there's not a hospital super nearby. So it's, not that they can give you help that someone in an emergency room can probably give you, but they're there to be able to treat the day-to-day issues that you may have, whether it's a sore throat or something like that you need medical attention for, maybe some medicine for. So I think that that's been really unique, is seeing how those tenants are starting to adjust and kind of be able to create that engagement again.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%. And especially during COVID, when it was so difficult to get into a hospital, they were really doing a lot of the job of the primary care. So yeah, that's been an amazing development for sure. So what advice would you give to newcomers or developing professionals in the industry? Definitely touched on the need for grit and determination, but particularly women who want to become CRE brokers or investors.
Being at Matthews, I think Meghan and I are really lucky. We have Devin Dykstra, who you guys are going to be interviewing another day, kind of on our corner. And I think that's really valuable, especially being a female in real estate. You don't often see female commercial real estate brokers. Really in the industry. And she's been around for about 6 or 7 years just in commercial real estate. So she has really extensive knowledge. I always like asking her advice, or maybe if you have a tough phone call, you can go to her and kind of debrief and she can give you your words of wisdom. But I would say for advice breaking into the industry is just reaching out to people that that are in commercial real estate and doing it. Reach out to us. We're more than happy and have in the past talked to numerous people that are interested kind of getting into commercial real estate. And I think the best thing you can ask is, what does your day-to-day look like? How long did it take you to get X, Y, and Z? Really understanding what you're getting yourself into, but also just seeing how you can kind of make yourself stand out among other candidates. I think that's really valuable. But we're happy to be, resources for whoever is interested and maybe wants a female's perspective on getting into the industry.
That's super valuable insight. Thanks so much.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, anyone can reach out to myself or Court. And I would say, it's really easy, I think, to just think that you're going through the motions. I think it's really important to be obsessed with improvement and how can you do things differently. And, just being extremely disciplined right now, so you have the freedom later on. But just keep calling, keep meeting, keep winning, just staying positive goes a really, really long way. And that's just what I've been trying to do in my first year.
I love that. And thank you so much for sharing your insights and for joining us today. We know that you are both super busy, so we really appreciate your time and you spending that time to sit down and chat with us. Before we hop off, where can people find you online if they want to get in touch?
Yeah, we're accessible. We're on LinkedIn. I think we're on our Matthews website. Just Google our name, we'll pop up somewhere. We have all the social medias and everything. So I think we're pretty accessible. And you feel free, we can give you our emails as well. If there's any serious questions, we're happy to be a resource.
Love that. Thank you so much, Courtney. Thank you so much, Meghan. And thanks for everyone that tuned in today. If you enjoyed this
Thank you
episode,
so much. It was such an honor. Thank you.
Yeah,
You
absolutely.
guys are amazing.
Thank you. Thank you to everyone who tuned in today as well. If you enjoyed this episode, do not miss the next one. Visit go.crexi.com/podcast and sign up to get the next episode delivered straight to your inbox. Of course, you can also subscribe to the Crexi Podcast on your favorite podcast app and check out our YouTube channel for video recordings of each episode. Thanks so much. Take care and be sure to tune in next time.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.